Okay, welcome back everyone. We're going to start with paper 176, Tuesday evening on Mount Olivet. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff in this paper. Christ gave a great deal of information, including references to the second coming in this paper, and we're going to both listen to this and also discuss it a little bit. So let's get started.
Paper 176, Tuesday evening on Mount Olivet. This Tuesday afternoon, as Jesus and the apostles passed out of the temple on their way to the Gethsemane camp, Matthew, calling attention to the temple construction, said, "Master, observe what manner of buildings these are. See the massive stones and the beautiful adornment. Can it be that these buildings are to be destroyed?" As they went on toward Olivet, Jesus said, "You see these stones and this massive temple? Verily, verily, I say to you, in the days soon to come there shall not be left one stone upon another. They shall all be thrown down." These remarks, depicting the destruction of the sacred temple, aroused the curiosity of the apostles as they walked along behind the Master. They could conceive of no event short of the end of the world which would occasion the destruction of the temple. In order to avoid the crowds passing along the Kidron Valley toward Gethsemane, Jesus and his associates were minded to climb up the western slope of Olivet for a short distance, and then follow a trail over to their private camp near Gethsemane, located a short distance above the public camping ground. As they turned to leave the road leading on to Bethany, they observed the temple, glorified by the rays of the setting sun, and while they tarried on the mount, they saw the lights of the city appear and beheld the beauty of the illuminated temple. And there, under the mellow light of the full moon, Jesus and the 12 sat down. The Master talked with them, and presently Nathanael asked this question, "Tell us, Master, how shall we know when these events are about to come to pass?" 1. The destruction of Jerusalem. In answering Nathanael's question, Jesus said, "Yes, I will tell you about the times when this people shall have filled up the cup of their iniquity, when justice shall swiftly descend upon this city of our fathers. I am about to leave you. I go."
Keep in mind that the Lord said, I will tell you about the times when this people shall have filled up the cup of their iniquity. Now remember, error is constant with finite beings. So error applied is evil. Evil applied with intent becomes sin. And sin applied over time is iniquity. When you've filled up the cup of your iniquity, it's because you continue to fill it. You will never stop. You will never even take some out. You just continue to fill it up. And you have to almost read this in conjunction with Josephus's writings. He was a late first century Jewish writer, and he described the destruction of Jerusalem in quite lurid details, very horrible details, but it's very informative too, and it helps us understand exactly what Christ was talking about, because Christ saw this, and Josephus saw this as well, much later, of course, but Jesus was trying to warn his people about the upcoming destruction of Jerusalem. But what's interesting is the reasons why Jerusalem would be destroyed was primarily because of their iniquity. They were determined to do evil. And if you read anything about Josephus, the evil that they were doing was just incessant. They were always killing each other. Let's continue.
To the Father, "After I leave you, take heed that no man deceive you, for many will come as deliverers and will lead many astray. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, be not troubled, for though all these things will happen, the end of Jerusalem is not yet at hand. You should not be perturbed by famines or earthquakes, neither should you be concerned when you are delivered up to the civil authorities and are persecuted for the sake of the gospel. You will be thrown out of the synagogue and put in prison for my sake, and some of you will be killed. When you are brought up before governors and rulers, it shall be for a testimony of your faith, and to show your steadfastness in the gospel of the kingdom. And when you stand before judges, be not anxious beforehand as to what you should say, for the Spirit will teach you in that very hour what you should answer your adversaries. In these days of travail, even your own kinsfolk, under the leadership of those who have rejected the Son of Man, will deliver you up to prison and death. For a time you may be hated by all men for my sake, but even in these persecutions I will not forsake you. My Spirit will not desert you. Be patient. Doubt not that this gospel of the kingdom will triumph over all enemies and eventually be proclaimed to all nations. Jesus paused while
I think that's a key phrase there. Christ says, be patient. Doubt not that this gospel of the kingdom will triumph over all enemies and eventually be proclaimed to all nations. But be patient. The Lord's ways are not our ways. Our ways are not the Lord's ways. What we desire the Lord to do is not ever, hardly ever, what the Lord wants and what the Lord intends. This destruction of Jerusalem and this anticipation of what would come, and they're hoping for the second coming then, is kind of what we do today. We hope for a second coming to deliver us from the Romans, to deliver us and for Christ to take over the government. The Lord has never promised that. He has never promised that, ever. And he will give this promise to these folks here shortly that he gives to us. It's the same promise. Let's continue.
he looked down upon the city. The Master realized that the rejection of the spiritual concept of the Messiah, the determination to cling persistently and blindly to the material mission of the expected deliverer, would presently bring the Jews in direct conflict with the powerful Roman armies, and that such a contest could only result in the final and complete overthrow of the Jewish nation. When his people rejected his spiritual bestowal and refused to receive the light of heaven as it so mercifully shone upon them, they thereby sealed their doom as an independent people with a special spiritual mission on earth. Even the Jewish leaders subsequently recognized that it was this secular idea of the Messiah which directly led to the turbulence which eventually brought about their destruction.
That is a powerful paragraph. It defines very clearly the root cause of the second coming complex. That I call it the second coming complex in Christianity. That we tend to attach to Christ's promised second coming something that just simply has never been promised. For the Jews, it was their idea that the Christ's material mission would come and that he would save them from the Romans. And so later on, even after he was crucified and left this planet, that promised second coming, many people in leadership position of the Jews thought, well, Christ will come if we initiate a rebellion against Rome. But after all, he will come and save his people, will he not? He will always save his people. And yet Christ did not come and save his people. They were destroyed and they were scattered. Only those who would listen to Christ's promises and warnings had left Jerusalem in time. The rest were destroyed. Up to 1 million people were killed during that time of siege and destruction. Very few people survived it. And so I think we do the same thing. We seal, as it says, thereby sealed their doom as an independent people with a special spiritual mission on earth. The Jews were given the promise to be the spiritual deliverers of information to the people of the earth. That was a promise given to Abraham, that through his people all the nations will be blessed. And that's still being fulfilled. But a special promise given to them that they would be the ones given the first choice. and they rejected Christ. Some did, some did not, but that special spiritual mission on earth sealed their doom when they rejected it. Basically, as an independent people, they rejected it. Even the Jewish leaders later on realized it was that idea to hold fast to this Messiah and to deliver as the deliverer from the Romans in a physical sense that would brought their destruction. So that's what I'm saying. We too are saying the same thing. If we're saying that the Christ will come and save us from the world, that promise was never given the Jews. It's not given to us.
Since Jerusalem was to become the cradle of the early gospel movement, Jesus did not want its teachers and preachers to perish in the terrible overthrow of the Jewish people in connection with the destruction of Jerusalem. Wherefore did he give these instructions to his followers? Jesus was much concerned lest some of his disciples become involved in these soon-coming revolts, and so perish in the downfall of Jerusalem. Then Andrew inquired, "But, Master, if the holy city and the temple are to be destroyed, and if you are not here to direct us, when should we forsake Jerusalem?" Said Jesus, "You may remain in the city after I have gone, even through these times of travail and bitter persecution. But when you finally see Jerusalem being encompassed by the Roman armies after the revolt of the false prophets, then will you know that her desolation is at hand. Then must you flee to the mountains. Let none who are in the city and around about tarry to save aught, neither let those who are outside dare to enter therein. There will be great tribulation, for these will be the days of Gentile vengeance. And after you have deserted the city, this disobedient people will fall by the edge of the sword, and will be led captive into all nations. And so shall Jerusalem be trodden down by the Gentiles. In the meantime, I warn you, be not deceived. If any man comes to you saying, 'Behold, here is the deliverer,' or 'Behold, there is he,' believe it not. For many false teachers will arise, and many will be led astray. But you should not be deceived, for I have told you all this beforehand."
So basically, you're talking about the destruction or the desolation of Jerusalem, as Christ says, the desolation. It's not just the destruction, but remember, David prophesied that the abomination of desolation. If you imagine desolation as being nothing, imagine abomination of desolation, meaning it is an abject, uh, incorrect application of desolation. Desolation is create nothing. But evil and sin tend to allow desolation to become an abomination. It's not just a destruction of the city and the people. It is an abject destruction of all things good to its basic level of evil. And that's what Christ is talking about, is that it will be a time of Gentile vengeance, meaning the Gentiles will be fighting the Gentiles, even though they were the Jews. They were the Gentiles. They had rejected Christ's mission, rejected Christ's gospel, his spiritual gospel. And it was Gentile against Gentile. The wicked will always serve to destroy the wicked. The Lord does not need to destroy the wicked. As we saw in the Book of Mormon with Ammonihah, the people of Ammonihah were destroyed by the Lamanites. They weren't destroyed by the Lord, they were destroyed by the Lamanites who came upon them and basically carried out an abomination of desolation there. That abomination of desolation never has to be. It never has to be. It will only happen when iniquity is fully ripe. Therefore, our commandment and our struggle is to never become so complacent in our iniquity, in our sin, let alone our sin. We should never be complacent in sin or error applied or evil in our life. Because if we do, we allow iniquity to build, and that iniquity can become completely destructive, that can lead to destruction, but also an abomination of desolation. We'll stop right there and pick up next time.